What's up everybody, and welcome to another video covering some of the Battlefield 1 leaks we got following the beta. If you don't know, basically the way these leaks came about is files are sent to your computer during the beta, and then some people data mine those files in order to find some hidden information in them, and basically a lot of the stuff that's going to be in the final game that we didn't see in the beta. I already made one video covering this. This went through all the different weapons that we will have in the final game. If you haven't seen that, I recommend checking it out. In this one, we're going to be going through some of the different gadgets available to the classes in the final game. I'm going to go one at a time through each of the classes, including the assault, medic, support, scout, and then we have some unknown that I don't really know where they'll fit in. Maybe single player, maybe some kind of special event mode, who knows. Time will tell, but with that, let's get right into it. So starting off with the assault class, we have 5 different gadgets, and all of them are actually geared towards anti-tank missions or methods or whatever you want to call it. We have the anti-tank grenade and dynamite. Both of these we did see in the beta itself. Obviously the anti-tank grenade just being a normal grenade that you could throw and stick on tanks or just around them so they would blow up and do additional damage towards armor. And then of course dynamite basically being C4 without the stickiness effect. Then we do also have an anti-tank mine. So obviously this is just going to be a normal land mine that you place down on the game. We've seen this in previous battlefields. You're just going to basically throw down a mine. If a tank drives over it or near it, it will explode and do damage to it. Or as a player, you could shoot it and then explode it manually to clear the way for some of your tanks. So then one of the new gadgets we do have is going to be a limpet mine. Basically what this is going to be is more akin to C4 in the stickiness effect, but it's on a timer. So basically picture C4 with no remote detonation. These are mines that you're going to be able to stick to different objects like a tank, but it's going to explode in, let's say, 3 to 5 seconds, almost like a sticky grenade. I have a feeling the timer will be a little bit longer on this one, probably longer than a grenade timer, only because it would make it very similar to a grenade then, and hopefully it actually has decent range considering it's going to be on a timer. And frankly, dynamite and even some of the anti-tank grenades didn't have crazy range. If a tank was even a little bit farther away from you, you definitely couldn't get anything on it and it would just drive away as soon as you place down dynamite. This can definitely create a solution there, as well as it's also going to potentially open up the door for more kind of cheesing, like throwing dynamite or rather limpet mines on horses and riding into battle and then having them detonate. Although it really is going to depend on how long the timer is. It'll be cool if there's like different versions, like maybe a 10-second version and then maybe another one's going to be more of a 20-second version. I'll be surprised if we see that, but one could hope. And then last but not least, the gun we really needed in the beta, an AT rocket gun. So this one, again, pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be some kind of rocket launcher, I assume, that will allow you to fire at tanks and do additional damage towards armor. I'm quite curious to see how this is going to be implemented. I really do wonder, is it going to be like a rocket launcher or more of like a AT rifle? It says rocket gun, so I don't really know. It doesn't give a clear distinction there. Maybe a firearm that fires some kind of large projectile, kind of rocket-like. I guess we'll see, but basically everything in this class is definitely going to be geared towards anti-tank, kind of giving assault a little bit of a different role, at least from previous Battlefield games. I don't know how I feel about this. Obviously, it tends to be the most played role because it's just the most universal and the best at kind of just killing people, but now it's also going to be the best at killing tanks. So definitely going to be an interesting dynamic in the new game. We'll see how it plays out in the coming weeks. So next up, we do have the medic. First and foremost, we have the grenade launcher. We saw this in the beta, but we're also going to have the frag, the HE, and the smoke versions. This wasn't really used that much. I actually used this quite a bit. I got a few kills with it here and there, but it was relatively easy to dodge the grenades. So the frag one is the normal one we did have, and then the HE version is probably going to be some kind of high explosive one, and probably not going to do as much damage to armor, but going to do more damage against individuals, like people. And then finally, the smoke one. Again, we've seen that in previous games and in the beta, and I'm sure that one's pretty self-explanatory. Then we do have the bandage pouch and the adrenaline syringe. So obviously both of these things in the beta. Then the medical crate, which is going to be exactly like the medical crates we've seen in previous games. So you're going to place it down in a static position, and then it'll heal enemies for longer than a typical bandage pouch and just have more like heals in it. I don't know, I'm guessing there's a set number, so let's say it could heal 500 health instead of a normal bandage pouch, which could only heal 100. And then last but not least, we do have the wrench. So this is by far the most interesting part of this class. A wrench is going to be an object used to obviously repair vehicles and, well, horses. So this totally changes the dynamic of the medic class. In Battlefield 3 and 4, and really a couple of the games before that, we had a whole class dedicated towards this whole category. Basically, it was an anti-tank and a friendly tank class called the engineer. You could heal tanks and you're the best at taking down enemy tanks. So interesting giving it to the medic. So the medic is really going to be playing a role of just a supporting role, basically. You're going to be healing your teammates and repairing your tanks. So pretty interesting to see that. It actually makes a lot of sense, and I feel like it's going to make the medic a powerful class, because now you're going to be there supporting your tanks as they move up, but at the same time you're going to be healing the allies surrounding the tank, which typically people are going to spawn in the tank, run out, go get shot a few times, then maybe if they actually fix the revive system, you'll be able to revive them and all that. Personally, I scored a lot of points if you actually use the meta class right in the beta, and if you actually had people that would request revives like that, it could be used to great effect. So if we see some of this being kind of modified, or a lot of people get the idea that you can be revived in the final game, it could definitely be a class to be reckoned with, mainly just in the point system. I was getting a lot more points using the meta class in the beta, and I do primarily play as a medic, so I'm pretty familiar with how many points I got in Battlefield 4, and I would almost say it's twice to 3 times as much in Battlefield 1. Now that you have a wrench thrown into the mix, being able to heal tanks, which frankly a lot of tank use was being used and they definitely seem pretty powerful, will change things up quite a bit. So then the support class, we have the ammo crate, the ammo pouch. We saw these in the beta. Same concept as the medical crate and medical pouch, except this one gives you some ammo. Then we do have the tripwire mines, which we did see. These are going to come in the explosive, the gas, and the incendiary forms. So these obviously weren't used to much effect on a big open map like Sinai Desert. People were moving around too much and there wasn't really good choke points unless you were going around C or even D, I guess you could use these to some effect, but I don't think I died once from a tripwire mine. Having the gas and incendiary versions is going to be very interesting, especially the gas one. That could be really good on an objective, especially in rush. So I'm excited to see how that plays out, but arguably the most important part here is the mortar. That's going to be the final gadget for the support class, actually getting one less than the other two. And the mortar is going to come in HE, airburst, and smoke. So HE is going to be high explosive again, going to probably be the mortar in the typical sense, where it just hits the ground, explodes, and kills anyone around you. The airburst I'm actually really surprised to see. So basically the way airburst mortars work is, well, it blows up in the air instead of when it hits the ground. So we did have the airburst kind of rifle previously, where you had a rangefinder and then it would blow up at that range. Well, the airburst mortars basically work and they will blow up in the air above your target and then hopefully do damage to them, or more importantly, it does normal damage to bigger groups of people. So rather than a regular mortar just taking down the people in and around where it hits, this one could hopefully cover a little bit of a wider area and hurt more individuals in that area, not necessarily killing them, but doing more damage to them. And then last but not least, we do have the smoke mortar. That's actually really interesting. I'm going to be surprised, or I'm excited to see how that plays out. It can be used to great effect depending on what kind of range you have, and you can almost, depending on how the mortar works, kind of take control of your team. And let's say you are playing rush or just even conquest, put a ton of smoke on an objective that's hard to get, and then you could have your team rush in as they see all the smoke coming in. I'm excited and interested to see how the mortar works. Again, the range of this thing is going to be a huge factor here. Is it going to be a one-man thing? I assume so, but it also could be a two-man thing, who knows. And is it going to be like how it worked in Battlefield 4 where there's only one allowed per team at a time? I just hope they get the balancing on this right. I want the mortar to be a powerful weapon if used right, and I feel like in Battlefield 4 it was just one guy camping somewhere and he just sat there all game and got some decent kills, but that kind of takes the fun away from it. I hope a lot of people, or maybe at least more than one, can use it, but at the same time I hope it's not broken and instantly nerfed a bunch of times or buffed a bunch of times at release. So then we do have the scout class. First and foremost, we have the spotting scope, which we did have in the beta. Then the flare gun with the spot and flash variants. Again, had that in the beta. The K-bullets, the last thing we had in the beta. And then finally, the two new things coming to the class. So that's going to be the trench shield. And this is a shield that can be deployed to snipe safely from a prone position. That's really interesting. It's going to definitely change the dynamic of snipers. So it seems like maybe it'll be some kind of steel little shield you put in front of you with a little peek hole for you to shoot out of, but maybe making it harder for you to hit. I'm just curious as to how they're going to balance this, because obviously people not being able to shoot you as a sniper would be pretty well overpowered. So there's got to be some kind of negative effect with using this. Obviously you're only in a prone position and you're going to be very immobile because you want to stay behind your shield, but still, if people don't flank you, like if you get on top of a mountain and you're just in a really good spot where there's not a lot of flanking options, unless maybe it's just brute force through the shield, a few bullets will break it. I don't know, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Then you do have the helmet decoy. So this seems like it's basically going to be like a little fake player head, and you could actually spot it as an enemy and kind of it'll just show up as a normal foe, and then as enemies shoot at your helmet decoy, they'll actually show up on your map. So we're going to enable a lot of counter sniping. This seems like a really good way to have one sniper just designate himself as, okay, I'm going to try and take out these snipers on the enemy team. I'll place down my helmet decoy, sit in a position a little bit aside of that, that's maybe a little bit more hidden, and as people start taking shots at it, you can take shots at them. I actually really like this. It seems like a really cool mechanic in the game, and hopefully it'll mix up the sniping a little bit and not make it as linear as it was in previous games. So last but not least, we have 3 unknown gadgets. These are just random things that don't really fall into a category. The grappling hook. If this is in multiplayer, that'd be awesome, but as many others speculated, it'll probably be in single player. We saw grappling hook in Hardline. It'll probably work similar to that, being able to basically climb on the sides of buildings. Then we do have shell casings, so there's no way this is going to be in multiplayer. I think almost guaranteed it's going to be in single player. Basically, you'll be able to pick up your shell casings or place down your shell casings, and then these will alert enemies to your presence, basically distracting them so you could kill them. And last but not least is the observation balloon. This one actually seems really interesting to me. If you could throw up a balloon into the sky that maybe could scout people or act as like a UAV or something like that, I'm not sure if that's really plausible. I'm not sure how it would work, but all we have right now is the name of it, and hopefully that is a multiplayer item, because I think that could be, if balanced correctly, used to some interesting effects, especially if other people could shoot it down. That's gonna be pretty much it for this one though, guys. Those are all the gadgets. I'll probably make one more video covering up some of the other like remaining things that are kind of just miscellaneous. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope you're as hyped for the game as I am, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.